Hello gainers, I'm Ralphie and welcome to my channel Fitter Philosophy, in which I discuss mainly stoically fitter philosophy stuff. And one of the ways to be fitter and one of the ways to tune into our own natural philosophy is to examine our primary senses: smell, taste, touch, sight and hearing. And there's also the sixth sense, but I'll come to that in another video. And to take these senses and re-examine them, because we tend to institutionalize our senses in the way that we institutionalize our lives. We form our habits, we get into our routines, we have just our way of getting on with life, which unfortunately, if we're not careful, means that we're living less and existing more. And we can verify this quite easily by looking at those around us and asking who inspires us, who around us and in the world, whether it be in the media or in our local neighbourhood or even within our family, who actually inspires us? Who do we view as living their lives more than others and getting more out of life than other people around them? And once you identify these individuals, we then kind of look at the way they work, what works for them, and then we transpose it into what works for us. And one of the good ways of doing this is to re-examine our senses, because like the rest of our lives, we take them for granted, we just get on with it. And in my last video I covered the sense of sight, and in this video I'm covering the sense of smell. And as a whiskey reviewer and commentator, it's something that I find endlessly fascinating, is that as the years and the decades go on and I continue to smell and assess whiskey and drink it, of course, you know, because it's got to be done, I'm amazed at how there's a slight recalibration goes on over time of the senses. As the sense of smell becomes more familiar with something, it identifies what it's less familiar with. That becomes more transparent, comes into view. And it's often the case, like every other sense, that often a lot of the image is blurry, but as you focus on what's in view, you're then able to adjust the lens of the sense to bring into focus what is out of view. What is blurry becomes clear. And it's certainly the case with the sense of smell. And I would encourage you to stop and smell, because nobody does that. You know, when we use our sense of smell, it's, oh, can you smell the toast is burning? Can you smell the fresh baked biscuits? Can you smell the nice new perfume that I got for Christmas? And this is the way we go, you know, we're looking for prompts before we recognize things that we smell. And it's only when we get out into the countryside, where we've got the fresh air, away from all the artificial smells that are created in the environment in which we are encouraged to live, basically in our little cages, particularly if you're in the city. The air fresheners, the car deodorizers, the nice ambient smells that you get put into washing powder and washing liquid, so that when you clean your clothes they smell clean even if they aren't. And all that's happening there is more chemicals are being added into the local environment, which are there to mask our sense of smell. And it's when we go into a supermarket and we're standing at the fresh veg counter, what do we smell? Well, not a lot actually, because so many modern vegetables in supermarkets are industrially produced on a large commercial scale, and as much as they are lacking in the smell of freshness that you would find in a local farmer's market in a more rural environment, these vegetables are also lacking in nutritional value. Because it's a fact that the more we smell of a fresh fruit, the more we smell the ripeness of, say, an orange or an apricot or a peach or a strawberry, and the more we smell the ripeness and the freshness of a courgette and a cabbage, the more we understand, in fact, that there's better nutritional value and true freshness in that foodstuffs. Therefore, to consume it will make our lives better and us more healthy. That's a fact of it. And when we're out in the countryside environment, as I am now, it's very tempting initially to notice that what you're getting is the smell of fresh air, and that's it. But it's only with time and only with patience and the greater use of the sense of smell that you start to smell the chlorophyll and the ozone, particularly when you're near water and particularly when you're near moss. Particularly, you'll notice the change in smells after a shower of rain. It is not your imagination, it is the naturally occurring chemicals in the environment which smell, because they're subtle, they smell so beautiful. It's like when you visit a public gardens, which too few people do, and you smell the roses, and then you notice that they've got a far deeper, more profound smell than what you get from a florist's shop, which are a different design of flowers. They're designed for cheapness and longevity and to look good, but not to really smell particularly of anything much. But when going to a public garden and the flowers are in bloom and it's the height of summer, when you stop and smell these flowers slowly, gradually, it's interesting the awareness one gets of how complex they are and how substantial they are. And I would conclude by saying that when I go through airports, which isn't very often, you're going through what they call used to call the duty free. It's not duty free at all. The commercial area of an airport. They have the perfume section. Wherever you go in the world, there's a big perfume section, and all the perfumes are mingling together in some sweet, nauseating cloud of commercial sick. That's the way I would describe it. I know this probably comes across as eccentric, but when I go through the perfume departments, because they're all bundled up in airports, I actually hold a handkerchief or a cloth over my nose to try and keep out the toxicity and the intensity of these horrible smells. And when we smell people who use perfumes, they use them because they want to smell lovely. They want to be more. They want to present themselves in a certain way. And they probably don't realise it, but when you smell the ubiquitous commercial cheap sweetness of perfumes, you basically start to kind of recalibrate the individual you're talking to. It's certainly the case, and I mean, this is a bugbear of mine at whisky festivals. Men as well as women will go to the festivals all dressed up with the perfume on, and these perfumes, these commercial intense perfumes which stick around, they hang around, they cling on because they're designed to. It's amazing how they can mess up your nose and suffocate your nose from the fine smells of the single malt whiskies and other liquors to be found at these shows. They can seriously inhibit. And it's what we have around the home as well. You know, remove the odorizers from your home and let your home smell as home should smell. Of you, of your environment, of your place, of your family. And bear in mind that when you're not smelling these air fresheners and carpet fresheners and fabric fresheners and all the rest of it, the more you remove chemicals from your domestic environment in which you spend so much time, particularly when you're sleeping, the less you expose yourself to the risk of cancer, in my opinion. because a lot of artificial chemicals bundling up over time cannot be good for our health. Far better out in the natural world, smelling fresh air, and the details in the fresh air. Well, you really know you're graduating when you're really, and we don't have to have brilliant sense of smell. We just improve what we've got. And when you can smell an individual tree as you walk down a road, you're really getting there. Anyway, I'm Ralphie. Hope you've enjoyed this little monologue. And if you have, click likey, subscribey, bang the belly and all the rest of it. And I'll leave you with this rather lovely rural view of a steep hill on the other side of a fence. It's quite nice. I think it's quite... I've set the camera up in such a way that it's artistically poised. I think it works. Bye.